Welcome to the Resolution Rundown, hosted by Resolution Real Estate. I'm joined today by as every day, my partner, Jerry Nocera. And today we have a guest with us, Brian Cohen from Goulston Storrs, who is not only somebody we've worked with, but has become a very good friend of ours through the years. Brian is a very well-heeled transactional attorney at Goulston Storrs. His disciplines and his areas of expertise run the gamut, from financings to workouts to sales, acquisitions, joint ventures. It's everything real estate. And Brian's been doing this for about 30 years now, I would say.
About 30 years.
And to start off with that, we met Brian when he first started. And as one of my favorite announcer, Clyde Frazier, would say, Brian was a precocious neophyte at the time, and was working at a firm called Greenberg Traurig, who had a very knowledgeable attorney there at the time, Rob Ivanhoe, and they were working with Jerry and I back to our roots at SL Green. In 1997, we went public, one of the first companies of that stature. I mean, we only had about 9 properties at the time, but we went public, raised money with IPO, secondary offering, and that gave us the ability to buy more properties and grow into what SL Green eventually became as the largest landlord in Manhattan.
So first of all, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Both Jerry and Anthony. It's really great to do this, to be together with you today. I started off as a land use lawyer. I don't practice land use anymore. I did the beginning of my career. And when I went to Greenberg Traurig in 1997, I started off, Greenberg had a very strong but relatively small compared to now real estate group, and led by Rob Ivanhoe, who's still leads the group, I think, on a global basis right now. And what was really interesting was that I started off supporting the land use group, which was one partner, and then I was the associate who had 8 minutes of legal experience. And I spent the first 11 years of my career, basically as a first-year associate, and then became partner and was there for up until the GFC, working at Greenberg as an attorney. And my primary responsibility, or one of them, was to work with SL Green on buying their B buildings originally and financing them, and then selling them, and then acquiring, joint venturing, and financing the A building portfolio that they have now. And at that point, early on in my career, is when the three of us met, because you were there growing that business and growing that portfolio. And I was learning on the job, and what I found as a young lawyer, and I try to impart on the lawyers, the younger lawyers in my practice, is, an opportunity may arise at some point where you can become, I'll use the word, indispensable in some way. And what happened to me is I was able to early on not only learn and to become very much integrated with this particular client, but to help create the original processes of how they would perform due diligence and how they would structure their entities and how they would really look at buildings, particularly office buildings. And then you guys can sort of add to this. And the original opportunity that I envisioned helped grow SL Green was the Helmsley portfolio. And I had this amazing opportunity to look at, diligence, help acquire, and finance many of the ground lease portions of the Gray Bar building, which was a super complicated ownership structure. And to acquire, I think maybe it was the Bar building. I think that was part of it.
That was one of
them.
And
1466 Broadway.
No, it wasn't the Bar building.
That wasn't part of the Helmsley.
28 West 44th Street.
Across the street.
And
I remember those deals.
Yes.
And then also diligencing assets that...
And Norman's portfolio,
yes.
too.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it, the secondary.
And then one of the other assets that maybe we worked on together was 317 Madison, which had, I think that was the one with the sporting goods store.
That's right. It had Modell's.
Yes. What's interesting is when you're in the role of the attorney involved in assembling a portfolio or a development site, particularly as, at my role now as I chair the New York real estate department of Goulston Storrs. We're a large 220 lawyer law firm. Half of our lawyers are real estate lawyers, and we get involved, as you know, in a lot of large, complex transactions all over the country, and I tend to focus on New York. But when I was a young associate, sort of growing up in the business and working on many matters together with you guys at SL Green, I would only see a part of the story.
Well, it's interesting. So we actually mentioned this on our last podcast, which is available. How real estate, when you think about the real estate industry, particularly in New York, we're a little bit more New York focused, but how transactionally it brings together so many different skill sets of different people, right? Like lawyers, architects, buyers, sellers, financing, lenders. That when you see that whole process and you look at it, you meet a lot of different people with just a lot of different ways of thinking, and it makes it incredibly interesting. And I think it's what keeps us going for so many years, is that as much as the players change and things change, real estate still, it is that, right? It's a lot of different people trying to get things done, basically, right?
Well, the one thing I just want to touch on, because you brought it up in what you had just said, is that when you're transacting and you're bringing together all of the parts, that's sort of how we, the three of us, have been collaborating over the last handful of years plus.
Correct.
Is, as a lawyer involved in these transactions and deeply involved, and we can talk more about that, I'm often seeing the problems and trying to help find solutions. And half the time there's no legal aspect to it. So, we're working on something together that we're navigating, and maybe there's an issue that requires asset management or construction management.
Right.
And a lot of times, and sort of this dovetails into the second part of what you just said, sometimes your client, in the context of what I do, your client may have an expertise in investing, maybe LP investing in real estate. And then they evolve for reasons that may be as clear as they want to have more control over their asset, and they want to give their family members more opportunity to invest. But now all of a sudden, they need to figure out how to jump to the next level. And oftentimes I'll say to a client, listen, you've been a major investor and now you want to be a developer. But right now it's just the two of us sitting here and a couple of sandwiches. How are you going to do that? And really the answer is I sort of look at like the McKinsey model of providing, third-party consultation services at the highest level.
How do you like mentoring? Do you embrace mentoring to your younger attorneys? Is this something that you've embraced and like?
Yeah, I think yes, in a couple of different ways. First of all, if you had great mentors, and
Always,
they don't
that's
have
right.
to be official mentors. They can just be people along the way that you meet, that inspire you, that take the time to help you advance. I think that you model what other people have done for you, and you learn from it, and you realize the benefit of it. So in the context of my law practice, I sincerely enjoy not only working with the younger lawyers, but sort of, opening up the hood to a transaction that they're working on and showing them how it came together. And then, having them come along with me when it's, when it makes sense, to whether it be a meeting or certainly be part of a conference call or the negotiation, to sort of see how it comes together. But I've also found in our industry that there's a lot of other opportunities to mentor not only lawyers, but young real estate executives. And I've been, I chair the Real Estate Council for UJ Federation of New York, which is a really important organization. And there's a lot of young real estate executives, and they have a more formal mentorship program.
Yes.
And that's been a lot of fun. And I must have now, through that program over the years, worked with maybe 6 or 7 young real estate executives who have gone on to do are continuing to do amazing things. And what are some of the success stories that you've had in doing mentoring?
I love the fact that, but you're caught, right? Because this is a rapidly changing business.
Yeah.
AI, speed of turnaround time. So the more I mentor, I realize that it's a narrower band where my mentoring is effective, right? Because how I did business 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it's almost not relevant other than the lessons that I might have learned from that. So that's where I narrow my band and I try to give advice in that way. And I find it very rewarding and that's a big part of why I still like doing what I do, quite frankly.
Yeah. I think one of the main things, when you talk about mentoring is just to impress the fact upon younger, whatever industry it could be, the importance of gaining and maintaining relationships like throughout your career. Right? I mean, when you look around this table, and we have many people who we've worked with and known for 30, 40 years.
Some that we even like.
Yeah, a few we still work with.
Very lucky.
But even to the point, and you always kind of make this point, Jerry, inherent in our business, as property managers, construction managers, we have go-to people outside of our expertise, as do you, that we go to. Right. We have like the go-to architect,
it's a leverage for us.
Right, the go-to construction guy, right? And you have those relationships and you keep them, and it makes your job that much easier. And it gives you, like, for example, when you give us some business, and you feel confident. I think
I feel confident with you guys for sure.
Right, that we can perform and do our job, and it's just.
I've seen you perform for 32 years. I think we know what we're doing.
Right. So
I'll tell you, it's interesting. I was a couple of tips and tricks that I've given to some of the younger attorneys when they're about to go to, for example, a business function, or I like to say a rubber chicken dinner, charity dinner, whatever it is. I think a couple things that come to mind is, number one, don't feel like you have an agenda or something you have to accomplish. Just being present and engaging and being comfortable, and repeat, to go to as many of these things as you appropriately can go to. What happens is over time, it creates exposure. You're more exposed to the marketplace, and you see people over and over again. To be a great transaction lawyer, same thing with litigation or whatever, to do a lot of it, to do complex work, to work with good people and do it well. But what I've suggested to them, particularly real estate lawyers, is find a friend who's a broker, who's a young broker trying to make it in the business, and use the budget of your law firm to take them along with you.
That's right.
Because they're probably an extrovert, and now you have a friend.
Absolutely.
And and I remember when I was first trying to build my practice, I was trying to figure out, how do I get into some of these lenders and have conversations, and then I realized that there's like a Trojan horse path to this. And I had this one friend, and he became a client, and he was buying a lot of buildings around the country. And I would say to him, hey, I always wanted to meet, the debt team at Cantor Fitzgerald at the time. And I said, why don't I call and introduce you to the person I'm trying to meet there, and then I'll just go into the meeting with you. And we'll do that to a few banks. And that was a way to sort of get network. And he was super happy. They were happy to meet a potential customer, and I got to hang out. And now, who knows where all those people went.
Right.
That's great.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, because you touched on it a little bit, because it brings me back to COVID, when you talk about get out there as much as you can and show your face. And the more you show your face, the more known you'll be, and more you'll meet people through either your anxieties or your like kinds. Back before COVID, there was a whole pinch in the law community on how they lay out their space. I don't know. Are you involved at all with that part of your company? Like in New York?
A little bit.
How is your space laid out? Are you perimeter offices? Are you still in that model, or do you have a combo of both? How are law firms laying out now? And have you found that means more space or less space?
So I think our new offices, and I think they were designed by Gensler, and I think they did a really good job.
They always do.
The office, all of the offices, and also has to do with the culture of the law firm. So in the New York office of our firm, all of the offices were in Nuveen's headquarter building, which is 733rd. It's a beautiful build out. And all of the offices we have perimeter offices and then interior offices, but all the offices have glass both ways so that the interior offices enjoy the light. The perimeter offices, for the most part, unless there was, a column in the way, are all the same size.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the culture of this law firm, that an associate and a partner, we all have the same size offices.
Makes it easy.
And it makes it easier, and it also saves on space.
And what are younger lawyers looking for from a law firm today? You're going to go out and hire the best and the brightest.
Mm-hmm.
This is tying into the same question. So you got a guy coming out of ABC top school.
Sure.
And he's interviewing with 5 different firms.
Mm-hmm.
What are they looking for today?
What are they looking for to get there? It's an interesting question, and I think that it starts with where are they going to get the best training and exposure to the most complex transactions.
Right.
And that's one thing. And I think that as a young lawyer, that's really one of the most important things, is where you're going to get exposure to people who want to take the time to train you and give you the opportunity to work on complex transactions.
Got it.
But the other thing that seems to be a longer term goal, depending upon when people enter the process and want to, have a future as a lawyer in a large New York law firm, is how exactly does the path to partnership work?
Mm-hmm.
And how likely is it that a firm will make someone a partner? Because if we're a what we call an AmLaw 200 firm, so we're, but then the AmLaw 100 firms, which are much, much bigger, depending upon the structure of the firm, there's it's a very narrow sort of funnel.
Right.
And so the question then is that if someone puts in the time and they put in the effort and they are an excellent lawyer, which for us is the most important thing. You have to be an absolutely excellent lawyer. And you've worked with my colleagues; they don't mess around. Right. You end up saying, okay, well, if I do all the right things, then why haven't I gotten this opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the challenge is. But a lot of younger lawyers don't think about that until their 4th, 5th, or 6th year.
Right. And then they're in deep.
They're actually quite a valuable commodity if they if they initially were at a firm that gave them that great training and exposure.
So then your challenge at that point is, how do you keep them?
Exactly.
Right.
And we actually benefit from that, a firm like ours, because we have a relatively low leverage, flat structure.
Okay.
So it really depends on the structure. And so we look for people who are trained by some of these firms where you have that sort of funnel effect.
What about the old lawyers? Do you find that you come up not necessarily against or transactionally working with gentlemen you've worked with?
So all the time.
All the time, right?
I think that the funny thing is that folks outside of the New York market find it remarkable how small the New York market is.
In general, for everything.
Yeah, for everything. And it's really amazing. And so in our practice in commercial real estate and transactions, we tend to collaborate a lot.
So what have we learned?
What have we learned?
What have we learned, Anthony? We've learned that Brian is a good friend of the firm, an excellent attorney. Love your firm too, by the way. As you said, not just you, everybody I've ever worked with over there are highly professional and great. And we're wishing you the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thrilled.
It's always a pleasure.
Wonderful working with both of you.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
always nice talking to a friend.
You got it.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.